Okay, good morning everyone. Let's start today's lecture.
Good morning, sir.
So,
Good morning, sir.
yes. So my screen is visible to you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today will be the last class for the first chapter. So we will wrap up today, and tomorrow we will begin with the new chapter. So last class, what we started, we were actually looking for the description of the wind. Okay, and that is generally provided by the weather station. When we talk about the wind description, generally obtain this data from weather station. Okay, so the weather stations are specifically located at someone's mic is on. Please mute. So the weather stations are located at in certain location, and they measure at various angles. Like the directions are not 0 to 360 degree. They measure at certain intervals, like 30 to 45 degrees, and based on different surface roughness. Generally, whatever weather station data you get, those are very ideal data. Okay, so that data can be used for the future prediction of the wind. Okay, so like when you are designing a structure, for example, a building, bridge, or any kind of structure which will experience or which is vulnerable to wind condition or future wind condition. So these data, what you have over the years from the weather station, that can be used to actually predict the wind loading. Okay, so that's why in this chapter we will be basically looking into the wind data. When it comes to the wind loading, then we will discuss about different forces and moments. So these data what we have seen are generally fluctuating data. Okay, and from that fluctuation you can get the mean wind speed by taking a suitable averaging time. Okay, and other parameters like RMS of the fluctuation and several other turbulent quantities that you can very well derive from this fluctuation. Okay, so mostly we look for the mean average data, and by suitably defining an average time. And then we saw that there is there are couple of ways that averaging time can be defined, like mean hourly average, which is based on 1 hour average wind data. Then 3 second average, which is based on every 3 seconds you get a average. And you can actually change this averaging time. Okay, like 10 minutes average, 5 minutes average, any other averaging also can be done. But these are typically the averaging time which are followed in the weather station. Okay, and from this also we discussed mainly the 3 second averaging will give you a higher peak value because you have smaller data set, and hourly average will be of not that significantly giving you the peak value. Okay, and we also saw from okay, so the averaging time can be correlated with your in a different way. You can look into this averaging time. It is actually related to your response time of the measuring instrument. Like for example, if your measuring instrument is very lousy one, then your response time it takes longer. Okay, so in the similar way, if you average out all the fluctuations for a longer duration, you don't get the actual or realistic data, right? So the peak values are not seen. So that is what can be correlated with your response time of the instrument. The averaging time what we have seen, like 1 hour average, 3 second average. So all these things can be correlated with the response time of the instrument. Okay, so that derivation we have also seen. And coming to the energy spectra of the wind speed, generally what we saw, the amount of energy contained when you take the 1 hour average, or starting from 20 minutes to 2 hours, like in this band, you see that the amount of energy contained in the wind is quite small. And in other words, you can say that the wind when it is averaged, or the wind condition when it is averaged out over this time period, the energy density or the fluctuation in the wind is quite small. So these are kind of stable data. Okay, so these stable data can be used for the future prediction. Okay, because this stays the same. Okay, more or less this stays the same throughout the time, like at different time of the year. You can also see that these data will not vary significantly. Okay, but whereas the other peaks, they may change based on the condition. Like for example, in there are few peaks you can actually see here. One is at 1 minute, around that, and there are few more peaks here at 12 hours, and then there is another peak at 4 days, something like that. Okay, so from the experiments, like the weather station data analysis, few reasons have been found why there are peaks at certain time intervals, and why there are no peaks at other time intervals. Okay, so at 1 minute, this peak what you see around 1 minute, so that is actually related with your turbulence. This is microscopic circulation, what we have previously discussed. This is because of that you get a peak here, like 1 minute, the peak corresponding to 1 minute time interval. Okay, or you can very well convert that into your frequency also. Then also you see another peak at 12 hours interval, which is basically your fluctuation due to day and night. Okay, so due to the solar radiation, change of the pattern day and night, you get certain wind pattern or fluctuation. So that corresponds to another peak at 12 hours. Okay, and furthermore, if you go to 4 days or 5 days, there you also you can see another peak, and those corresponds to a large atmospheric pressure change. Okay, so this may be a cyclonic change, or a small scale pressure change, which are bigger than these turbulence or day night fluctuation. Okay, so there are a different scale of fluctuation we have previously seen. So this corresponds to large atmospheric pressure change. Okay, so typically you see this type of peak, and if there is cyclonic condition and other thing, so you may starts to see additional peaks also. Okay, so now yeah, it is mentioned here. So peak accounts for the annual, seasonal and daily pattern and short-term turbulence. Okay, so these what we have just now discussed. And high value, the high energy content, it says about that there will be significant change in the wind speed over that particular time period. Okay, so that is what that is how you need to read. When the peaks are high, so there will be a significant change in the wind speed during that particular time. Okay, and another thing is sometimes you can decouple your analysis, because you can see that these peaks are happening at a certain frequency or at a certain time scale. So you can very well decouple your analysis and say that how the wind climate condition changes and how the turbulence in the atmosphere changes. Those can be separately studied. Okay, because this phenomena occur at different time scales. Okay, so you can decouple this phenomena and study them separately. Okay, so that is the point. That is how various researchers, they try to stick to certain time frame or the frequency scale and do their investigation. Maybe in atmospheric scale they do the investigation in this time frame, but in turbulence spectra analysis, probably you can see that few researchers will be working on these smaller time scales. Okay, any question?
Excuse me, sir, can you just please explain that once again? I actually lost my network connection.
Which one I need to explain?
Sir, I actually lost the previous 1 minute.
Achha, previous 1 minute. So the what I have said here, you can decouple your investigation. In this course, we will not be seeing the detailed analysis of that. Those researchers who are working on this particular area, like atmospheric turbulence or investigation of the atmospheric circulations, so they generally decouple their investigation, because you can see that why it is possible to decouple the solution, because you have the specific frequencies. Okay, so you can see that the large scale atmospheric circulation, if someone is trying to study, they can just focus on this time frame. Okay, 4 days, 5 days, something like that. What is how the environment is, or atmosphere is changing in this time scale, and effect of that on any of the structure also. Some researcher who works on the low scale or the lower time frame, so particularly more interested on the turbulence part, small scale turbulence. So they focus on this 1 minute or 5 minutes, or sometimes in few seconds also. Okay, so these investigations can be done separately because they occur at different frequency range. Okay, so that
Sir,
can be yes.
why are there only 2 peaks only, right? Uh,
this one, there are 3 peaks, but I've shown here.
Okay.
These are ideal 3 peaks. So first one is what you see at 1 minute corresponds to your microscale circulation. If you remember, microscale circulation that comes from the industry, for example. Okay, so industry, there is a sudden puff of the smoke. Okay, so that might change the atmospheric condition instantaneously. Okay, so that corresponds to this particular peak, which are microscale observation. And if you see, there is another peak at 12 hours. This corresponds to your day and night fluctuation. Like you know that the wind condition changes when you are in the daytime and the night time. So that time you get another peak. Okay, so this corresponds to another frequency. And there is something in the 4-day interval around that period. So if the atmosphere changes in this 4-day or 5-day interval based on large scale pressure change. Okay, so this may not be always the cyclonic condition or the storm condition. In general, the atmosphere pressure condition changes in every 4 or 5 days. Okay, so that corresponds to this larger peak. Okay, so and this is actually like I have said, when you get a higher energy data, or this frequency corresponds to higher energy density, then there will be large change in the wind speed. Okay, so this is what generally observed. Okay, in every 4 or 5 days.
Okay, sir. Sir, and is this a general data, or like the data will vary according to the like a particular location?
This will be the data will vary from the location to location. Like let's say the weather station located in India, in different states also it will vary. Okay, in West Bengal, if you go to this in south and north, so there will be difference in data, the weather station data, and also separately, like if you are focusing on a particular, like let's say West Bengal data, then if you go from far away from the weather station, if the urban condition appears, or there will be like forest land or so, so based on that terrain condition also this data will vary. But in those areas or location, you don't have the measurement. The weather stations are generally located at very ideal situation, like we have discussed.
Okay.
So you need to forecast or interpolate your data suitably to that particular location. Okay, so these are very ideal condition or ideal data. Okay. Any more question? Okay, so if no question, so next let's see the design wind speed. Like right now, what we have seen is we saw that the weather station gives you measurement over the years. Okay, so every year you get annual average. Probably also you can get the peak value in every 24 hours. Whatever data set they have, that can be obtained from them. Okay, now what is the benefit of those data sets? So using those data sets, whenever these high-rise buildings or let's say you are designing airport or a bridge. Okay, so those design aspects has to take into account this weather condition or the wind data. Okay, so whatever data you have in the past, that can be used for the future design of the structure. Now, how you can use that information which is available from the weather station, that we are going to see here, just to predict the future wind condition. Okay, not the loading on the structure itself, just to predict the future wind condition. So for that, one of the parameters that we define, that is return speed, return period, not return speed, return period, which is defined as T. Okay, so return period is actually the definition is shown here, is defined as the mean of intervals, particularly in years, that a particular wind speed is exceeded. Okay, so this is a time period which is actually mean of intervals. Okay, in that intervals or in that particular mean value will give you a particular time period which corresponds to that Vmax is exceeded. Okay, so let's say you define Vmax as 50 meter per second. Okay, now from the weather station data, you see that in year 1 you have, let's say, 30 meter is your maximum. In year 2 you have 60 meter as your maximum. Okay, so like this you can see that there will be certain years where you will see that the wind speed exceeds a certain Vmax. That is what you design for. Okay, if you design a structure that it is the maximum wind speed is around whatever Vmax is prescribed in that region, and now you try to find out what is the return period that the wind will exceed that Vmax. In how many years the wind will exceed that particular Vmax. Okay, and it is need not be like you find that in one trend it is exceeding in 10 years, in another trend you will see that it is exceeding in 12 years, in another trend you will see that it is exceeding 8 years, something like that. So what you need to do is you need to take a mean intervals of that. Okay, so from these exceedance years you need to get a mean interval, and from that you can define a return period which says that it's a time period which contains mean of intervals that a particular wind speed is exceeded. Okay, so is it clear? This is actually a very important parameter. We will be using this for our design later on. Okay, so return period is basically, it is telling you the time or the interval which is actually mean of all the intervals in which a particular wind speed is exceeded. Okay. So now when you are designing a building or a structure, let's say its exposed period is n years. Okay, so this exposed period can be very different than your return period. Let's say a certain wind speed exceeds at every 10 years or 20 years. Okay, so return period and exposure time, like when you design a building for 100 years. Okay, so this n and t, they can be very well different, and they can be also same. Okay, generally they are different because exposed period is longer than the return period in general. Okay, so now how do you do the analysis? The first thing is how you can find whether your structure is actually whether your structure is actually facing this Vmax or not. Okay, so that is what you need to find out. Okay, so the probability that your wind speed will exceed Vmax in a year is how much? It is 1 by T. If you know your return period is T, then probability that your wind speed will exceed the Vmax, which is your prescribed wind speed or design wind speed, it is actually 1 by T, because in every T years the wind speed exceeds the value. So in 1 year, what is the probability? 1 by T, right? And then what is the probability that it will not exceed? It will be like 1 minus 1 by T. So this will be the probability that the wind speed will not exceed in 1 year is 1 minus 1 by T. The same you can project this cumulatively for the n years So probability that it will not exceed in n year. Okay, so n is your actually your exposure time. So the probability that it will not exceed is 1 minus 1 by t power n. Okay, so this is a cumulative probability. Now, so what is the chance that the structure will actually fail, or when the wind condition actually exceeds in n years, in any time in this n year? So that will be 1 minus this pm. Okay, so that is actually your the risk factor. Okay, so this is the probability that the wind condition in your exposure period will exceed certain Vmax. That is what you have prescribed. Okay, so this is what is the risk factor. Okay, associated with a return period data. So now you can see that if you know the return period, if you know the exposure time of the structure, you can very well find out what is the chances of failure or the risk factor. Okay, so if it is less than it, the smaller the risk factor, the better it is for the design viewpoint, right? It is understandable. Okay, so note down this equation. I think we will solve, or rather we will try to find out some data next slide. So f is equal to 1 minus minus of this bracketed term. Okay, so from this actually you can try to solve this one quickly, maybe for 1 or 2 points. So let's say if your exposure period is n equal to 50 years and your return period is, let's say, 50 years. So what is the risk in this case? Can someone calculate? So n is 50, t is also 50. And someone else can calculate n is 50 and t is your 72. I'll show you the equation again. Okay. So the equation is here. Can you tell me what is the risk factor F when n is 50 and t is also 50?
Close to 0.63.
Yes, it is 0.63. And anyone found for the 72 when n is 50 and t is 72?
0.50.
Okay, yes. So you can see that. So basically, when you design your structure for 50 years and you see that the highest wind condition can happen once in a 50 years, that is your return period. So the risk associated is actually around 0.6. If your return period goes high, so basically your structure is stable. Okay, so the risk factor goes down. Okay, all right. So this is how the analysis is generally done when you try to find out the risk associated with a structure design. Okay, based on the wind speed and return period. Okay, so okay, again I have mentioned here. So 50 years return period, it need not mean that it means the wind speed exceeds in every 50 years regularly. It is an average time. Okay, it's a mean average of that. All right. Okay, so now you know that this is the return period, but we don't know what is the Vmax. If now let's say someone has said that design the structure for let's say 20 years time, okay, or 50 years time. Now, but you don't know what will be the wind condition, exactly what will be the wind condition after 50 years time. Okay, so using this return period data, you can actually predict what will be the wind condition in that year. Okay, like 50 years from now, let's see if you want to predict. So what will be the wind condition in 50 years time? Okay, so how it is possible actually? It is seen that all the wind condition or the wind data, what you have measured from the weather station, they follow a distribution which is actually your Gumbel distribution, and it is Fisher-Tippett type 1. Okay, so we'll not go to the details of this But you see that, remember that all the wind condition, it actually follow a Gumbel distribution and Fisher-Tippett type 1 type. Okay, so this is found more or less in all the weather station data. So using this distribution, actually you can find out what will be your Vmax. Okay, the prediction what you want to do, what will be the wind condition after this many years, T years. So this can be defined or obtained from this Gumbel distribution. Okay, so let's see what is the formula for that Gumbel distribution, or particularly the Fisher-Tippett type 1 distribution. So this looks like this. So the probability that the extreme wind speed will be less than V in any 1 year is this one. Okay, so this is the probability that your wind speed will be less than V. V is your Vmax is defined here. Okay, so let's say when we are designing for, so how do we see that? So this is the Vmax is actually your weather station data. You will see that when I do the example, maybe that will be more clearer. So probability of the wind speed, or this is the probability density function actually, that you can represent using this particular formula. Okay, so here alpha and beta, those are the parameters. One is your dispersion parameter and another one is your mode parameter. Okay, so 1 by alpha is basically your dispersion parameter and beta is your mode parameter, which will depend on the from station to or location to location. Okay, so this will be varied. Okay, now using the weather station data, you can actually find out this alpha and beta value. These are not predefined. These needs to be obtained from your measured data. Okay, so the weather station data will give you Vmax. Okay, so in every yearly basis. All right, so if you get yearly basis Vmax, so by doing certain steps, you can very well see that you can find out 1 by alpha and beta. So how do you do that? Okay, so here I have shown a schematic of or simple example of one of the weather station data. Let's say you have data available in this fashion. Okay, like starting from some year to some year, let's say 1947 to 1953, you have the data set available with you. Okay, or maybe 38 or so. So so you have this consecutive year data with you, and these are the wind speed recorded in that particular year, the maximum wind speed recorded in that particular year. Let's say, for example, 1953, the maximum wind speed is 55. Then 1950, the maximum speed is 59. Okay, so what you need to do is, first we need to rearrange these data in an increasing order, not the year. Okay, so you need to rearrange this wind speed data in an increasing order. So in this example, let's say the lowest one is 55. So I have ranked that is as 1. Okay, then gradually I have increased, and let's say there are all total of 23 data sets. Okay, so 23 years data is available here, and you need to rearrange all the data from the original table in an increasing manner. Okay, so this is in the increasing manner, not the increasing order of the year. Remember that, not the increasing order of the year, but increasing order of the wind speed. Okay, now so the probability from here, you can see that the probability that particular wind speed will exceeds the Vmax in a year. Let's say you have 23 data sets, right? So what will be the probability that this will exceed 55 in a year? So that will be m by m plus 1. So here small m will be 1, and that will be the total number of 23 plus 1 is 24. Similarly, when you go for the second one, it will be again 2 by that much. Okay, so this is the good approximation to the probability that extreme wind speed will exceed that particular Vmax in that year. Okay, so you can get m here, and this is your actually probability of exceedance. Okay, and what we do, we try to simplify this particular equation by taking a logarithmic function here. Okay, So you take ln p, and so the other side you have exponential term. So that taking ln or logarithmic twice, you will get this particular equation. Okay. So now, like I have said, this probability of exceedance of certain wind speed, that can be represented as m by m plus 1. Okay, so m is your rank and this m plus 1 is the total number of year of data available to you. And from this, you can actually simplify the equation and can rewrite this as V max is equals to this. Okay. So here this V is actually your V max. Okay, so I think that you should remember this V is your V max, and that is actually the maximum wind speed observed in that particular year. Okay, so now using this equation, you can very well plot the data set available with you. Like V max is available with you every year. Like we have already seen, this is the V max, and you can get this derived quantity, which is normally called as the reduced variate or Gumbel variate sometime. Okay, so I have mentioned here, this is reduced variate or Gumbel variate, V max, and this, if you plot them in one particular graph, and you can very well find out what will be your 1 by alpha and what will be your beta term. Okay, so beta will be your intercept where it is crossing, and 1 by alpha will be your the slope. Okay, so once you know this 1 by alpha and beta, you can use this thing to extrapolate your information and try and find out what will be the wind speed in a particular year. That is what you want to find out. Let after 10 year time or 20 years time, what will be your wind speed if you want to find out. So this 1 by alpha and beta term is actually what you need. Okay, so how do you get the information for the future? So basically you need to use the definition of the return period. Like we have seen that the probability that the wind will not exceed V max in a year, that can be defined using the return period. So here this is your P term, actually 1 minus T, and the other side is Vt, which is not known to you, which is what you want to find out. Okay, so this T is given to you. You know what is the time frame you are trying to forecast the weather condition. Let's say 10 years down or 20 years down. This T is known to you, but Vt is of your interest to find out. So you can simply rewrite this equation, and in terms of Vt, like Vt on the LHS side, and so since from the graph you have already seen what is the beta and 1 by alpha value, just substitute and you can find out Vt, the expected wind condition at that particular year. Okay, so further you can also simplify this, like instead of return period, if the data is given to you in terms of the risk factor. Okay, so we have also seen that the risk factor can be correlated with your return period. So you can very well rewrite this equation using the risk factor, which is like this. Okay, and the question can be either you need to predict the wind speed in a certain return period, or predict based on the risk factor. Okay, so these both the equations are important. Sometimes what we do, we normalize the result, what we found Vt. It can be normalized with Vt and T, like both N and T here, 50 years. Okay, so your exposure period and the return period is 50 years. So you can actually normalize this data, and what we do is we try to plot a graph. Okay, we try to plot a graph, and in which you can very well find out Vt from it. Okay, so let's say the exposure time is given to you, N is given to you, F is given to you also. Then using the certain like in this graph itself, you can very well find out what will be your value on the x-axis. Okay, so from that you can predict your Vt. All right. So this graph is, if it is given to you, what you need to do is, you know the exposure period, you know the probability of the risk factor. So just draw a straight line, and a vertical line will correspond to somewhere on the horizontal axis, and using that value you can find out what will be your VT. Okay, so you can either use this graph if it is given to you, or you can use this set of equations to find out VT. Okay, so there are different ways the observation can be or the analysis can be done. All right, so I think that is all about the design of the wind speed, or to just get the wind speed information. Here, this is your home assignment. Tomorrow we will discuss. So I will upload the slide today itself, and you can try to solve this question. So over the years,
Sir, can you please explain once the normalization part?
Okay.
I couldn't get that.
Yeah, it's actually, it's a kind of non-dimensional thing. You can say that how much wind speed it is actually is seen compared to your this is the standard data. In terms of the standard data, you can see how much percentage of wind speed you are seeing. Okay, whether it is less than that or whether it is higher than that. So based on that, you can see the values 0.8 or more than that. Okay.
Okay, it is
Parameter to compare. Yes. It is nothing difficult to see. Like generally that is done, or when we plot this graph. Otherwise, we simply calculate VT. Okay, we don't normalize even. All right. Okay, so for this question, you have weather station information somewhere in Australia, and the maximum wind speed on a yearly basis is given to you. You need to see how many years there, and try to predict the wind condition or the design wind condition when 20 years time, 50 years time, I think four data I want: 20, 50, 100 and 200 year return period. Okay, so this is where your T is given to you. You need to find out VT. Okay, so the steps already I have discussed. I think you can follow that. Okay, and find out these information first, 1 by alpha and beta, and then using that you need to use this equation and find out what will be your VT at those 4 return periods. Okay, is it okay? Any more question? Okay, so if no question, I end my class here, and we will see. We will continue tomorrow. Okay. So please try to solve this. I will upload the slide now, and you can go through the other sections also. If you have any doubts, tomorrow we discuss, and we will start a new chapter on atmospheric boundary layer. Okay.
Sir,
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
about the term paper topic.
Yes, I was actually finalizing that. Few I have thought. Tomorrow maybe I will complete, and I will probably let you know, or let all of you
Sir,
know.
can we choose on our own the topic, or it will be said by you only?
So if you're allowed to choose you guys, then I need to have little bit more number of topics than the groups. Okay, so there are already 8 groups. So I need to find out at least 10 or 12 topics, so that one group, so that there is no duplication. Like if 2 or 3 groups they want to choose one particular topic, then that will be that is not good. So that is why either I will assign, or if I can find more relevant topics, and then accordingly I will give you an option. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me